How's it going, everybody? Welcome to today's stick mobility class. I am Coach Ray, and as usual, thank you for joining me for today. So for today's class, we're going to need quite a few different things and pieces of equipment here. So I do have a kettlebell. The kettlebell I'm using only weighs 12 kilograms. If you're super strong, you can go to something heavier or lighter. It also going to depend on you, or you can use a dumbbell, whatever happens to work for you. We are going to be using that to get into one of our drills today, which is going to be a Cossack squat variation, but we're also going to be using a furniture slider or slider along with that. So make sure you also have that available to you as well. We're also going to be using a long and a short stick only today for our entire class. And we're also going to need a yoga block and a TRX if you actually happen to have access to both. If you do not have access to the TRX, we can actually use a stick has kind of been placed for a TRX. This is going to be a little bit more challenging in terms of using the stick, given the movement that we're actually going to get into, because we are still going to be working with that core. So we're on to the deep front line this time. So let's go ahead and get into it, folks. First thing we're going to start off with is we're going to start on our knee, and I have a pad here, and I'm going to have my right knee down. I'm going to have my left foot forward. Now, my back foot, I want that ankle dorsiflex, so I'm driving that big toe into the floor here. I'm gonna have the bottom of the stick, and this is the long stick as well. The bottom of the stick is in line with the toes of my front foot, and it's right outside the line of my hips here. What we're gonna be doing is we're gonna bring our right hand up, grab up as high as we can, try to keep the elbow straight if possible, and keep control of the rib cage. You don't want it to flare up too much and get that low back involved. So I'm going to tuck my pelvis here, squeeze that right glute. You're probably going to feel a little bit of a stretch in the front of that right hip or right around that rec fem area. From this position here, I'm going to lightly drive the stick into the floor with both hands. And then from this position, I'm going to rotate to my left. You're going to get a stretch in your right lat. And then I'm going to rotate to the right, reaching back with that right hand. Rotate to the left. Really reach up here. And as we reach to the left, think about driving that right hip going down towards the bottom of the stick a bit. And then rotate to the right. Reaching back. Excellent. Rotate to the left again. And rotate to the right. Back to center and ease off. Excellent. Let's go ahead and switch sides here. This is a really light way to kind of warm up the T-spine. Also get to warm up those hips a little bit too. Bottom of the stick is still in line in the same spot, slightly outside of the hip, in line with the toes of the front foot. Reach up high with that left hand. Right hand is on a stick for added support. Tuck your pelvis, squeeze that left glute to get your hip into extension. Rotate to the right. Remember, we're getting that left hip to go down towards the bottom of the stick a little bit here. Then we're gonna rotate to the left. Trying to get a good amount of rotation here. Rotate to the right. Breathe, rotate to the left. Excellent. Rotate to the right again. And left. Back to center and ease off. Excellent. Now at this point, I'm going to move this out. We're going to stay in this half kneeling position, and I'm going to bring my left foot out. And I want my left foot to be out to the side. I want to try to keep that foot pointed forward. This is actually going to be important for the drill we're going to get into later. I'm going to have the stick roughly about in line with my belly button. You can go a little bit more towards being in front of the right hip. That's totally okay here. Now from this position, I'm going to stay up nice and tall. I'm going to have my hands roughly about face height, and the bottom of the stick is actually angled outwards here. They're not angled in, it's angled out. Because I do want to actually drive the stick down, going forward a little bit. And what I'm going to do from there is I'm going to push my left foot into the floor, about 30% tension, to activate that adductor line here. So from here, arms are out, nice and straight. Drive the stick into the floor 30% and drive your left foot into the floor 30%. Almost like you're trying to pull that left foot in. You should be feeling those left adductors activate here. And ease off. And relax, take a second. Let's go again. Drive the stick down 30% and drive that left foot into the floor 30%. Hold. Make sure you're breathing here. 3, 2, 1, and ease off. Let's go one more time, folks. One more time. Drive the stick down and drive that left foot into the floor. Hold. Breathe. 3, 2, 1, and ease off. And take a second here. I'm actually going to turn to the side. So now my left leg is down, right foot is out. You also, when you bring that foot out, you want it going to the side as much as you possibly can. You don't want it in front, you don't want it behind. You want it to be as lateral to the hip as possible here. Bottom of the stick is going to be angled out a bit. Hands are going to be at roughly face height. Let's go ahead and switch how you stack the hands. Wrist position here. Same thing, drive the stick down 30% and drive that right foot to the floor 30%. Really want to activate those adductors here. Breathe. 3, 2, 1, ease off. Excellent. You're going to actually feel that your left leg is going to be reflexively kind of pulling in as well, right? So we're adducting those hips. Drive the stick down, drive that right foot into the floor, almost like you're trying to pull it in as well. Breathe. 3, 2, 1, and ease off. Let's go one more time, folks. Drive the stick into the floor, activate that right leg, pull in. Hold. And 3, 2, 1, and ease off. Excellent. Good. Now we're going to go to a standing position here. Going to kick the pad right over. We don't need any more at this point. We're going to go with the ninja flow. So we're going to get that thoracic spine. We're going to get the adductors. We're going to hit a little bit of everything here. So take a stance as wide as whatever's most comfortable for you. You can always start off with a little bit more of a narrow stance and then open your stance up progressively here. And I'll actually step forward. So I'm going to have the stick on the bottom of the stick on the inside of my right foot. I'm going to have my right hand somewhere around face height. And from this position here, I'm going to have my right arm straight out to the side. Lightly drive the stick down, only about 20%. And then I'm going to hinge. And as I hinge, I want the stick to be in line with my rib cage, and I'm going to reach my left hand going down towards the floor here. If you can get your knuckles on the floor, that's good. We're just going to hold this position here, try to relax, allow those chest tissues and shoulders to open up a little bit so that when we go into the activation, we can actually get that posterior chain a little bit active here. I'm going to reach across with my left hand, thumb facing down towards the floor, and I'm going to pull the stick apart. As I do that, you're going to see that little subtle bit of rotation to my right, and then I'm going to lunge. So I'm going to really drive off that right leg, straighten it out, lunge to that left side, and then I'm going to lunge to the right, drive off that left leg, getting a hang in my right hand. Keep pulling apart, lunge to the left, drive off that right foot. Stick is in line with the rib cage here. Lunge to the right, drive off that left leg. Gonna feel that left adductor really start to stretch a bit. Lunge to the left, drive off the right leg. Make sure you sink those hips back. Lunge to the right. Really sink into it. Back to center. Let go with the left hand. Slowly come up and ease off. Let's go ahead and switch sides here. Going to bring the stick on the inside of the left foot now. Left hand is up, same position or close to the same position. Lightly drive that stick down about 20%. Get that nice bit of activation. Keep the knees soft and hinge those hips back. Get a nice hang going. Also, it is okay if you kind of rotate your shoulder a tiny bit here. Breathe. There you go. Get a nice good stretch in the shoulder and the pec. Rib cage opens up a little bit. Take that right hand, reach across, thumb facing down towards the floor. Pull apart, only about 20%, and lunge to the right, driving off that left leg. Make sure you're pulling apart here, folks. Then lunge to the left, driving off that right leg. Really sink into it. Take advantage of that adductor stretch. Lunge to the right. Drive off that left leg. Breathe. Lunge to the left. Drive off that right leg. Lunge to the right. Drive off that left leg here. Excellent. Lunge to the left. Drive off that right leg. Sink into it. Back to center. Let go with the right. Stand up slowly and ease off. Let's go ahead and wiggle those feet in. Nice and slow. Excellent. We're going to place the long stick down. We're going to get the short stick now. So what we're going to do with the short stick here is we're going to kind of go through a little bit of rotational based drills. We're going to do it from a hinged position specifically. And what we're going to do with this drill is we're actually going to add in a little bit of tension like we haven't done before. And it's just to get that adductor line a little bit more active here. So I'm going to take the stick, place it behind my mid back, in the crooks of my elbows here, okay, like so. And what I'm going to do from this position here, I'm going to go with a roughly shoulder width stance. Toes are going to be pointed forward. You can even go a slight bit wider if that's a little bit more comfortable here. So I'm going to hinge. I want to keep my hands on my abdomen here. From this position, I'm going to look down for now. I want both of the back of my hands on the inside of my thighs here. I'm going to leverage my right hand onto my inner thigh, and I'm really going to push off that inner thigh on my right side here. Now, what I'm going to further do is I'm going to activate the adductors on my right side by driving my right leg in. As I push even harder off that right hand, and then come back to neutral. Do the same on the opposite side. Bring that left hand on the inside of that left thigh and adduct. So push your left hip towards your right. Really open up. You get a lot more rotation here. Back to center. Leverage that right hand in. Activate, drive that knee inwards towards your center line. Get more rotation. Back to center. Leverage that left hand. Make sure you breathe. Activate that adductor. Excellent. Let's go one more time each side. Rotate to the left. Activate the adductor. And you can actually activate it about 30% here. Excellent. Back down. Rotate to the other side. Activate the adductor. Back to center. Stand up. And ease off. Excellent. And now from here, we're going to work on opening up that spine. we're gonna get into an extension drill and we're gonna rotate in and out of it. The difference here is we're actually going to be in a little bit of like they have a side split kind of position here. So the feet are actually going to be a little wider than usual. We're quite a bit wider than usual. Typically we go with about roughly shoulder width stance here. This time we're gonna go with a much wider stance and shoulder width. I'm gonna have the bottom of the stick in line with my center line here. And I'll actually kind of turn to the side. I want both feet to be pointed forward. Scoot back a little bit. And I have the bottom of the stick angled in towards me. Hands gonna be about chest height here. Now what I'm gonna do from this position is I actually wanna keep my legs straight for this one, right? So not a hard knee, but think about a relatively soft knee. We're gonna hinge back and reach out. Breathe. So we're real familiar with this drill here. Reaching out with those hands, creating as much length in the spine as possible. And then we're gonna come up nice and slow to that tall position. Now as you come to the tall position, squeezing those glutes, you're gonna feel those adductors stretch out a little bit. Now we're gonna go back into it again. This time we're gonna add a rotation. I'm gonna hinge my hips back. I'm gonna lift my head so my head clears my shoulders, and then I'm gonna rotate the stick to the right. So we're getting rotation here. Also, if you're really tight on those adductors, you might be getting a little bit of the adductors here. Gonna come back to center, and then we're gonna rotate to the left. Trying to get that right shoulder going down towards the bottom of the stick. Back to center, rotate to the right. Try to get that left shoulder going down towards the bottom of the stick. Excellent, back to center, rotate to the left. Try to get that right shoulder going down towards the bottom of the stick. Back to center, come up, squeeze those glutes. Now wiggle those feet in, nice and easy. Excellent, good. Now we're gonna get into our strength training phase. This is where we're gonna need a yoga block and a TRX for something, or again, we could use the stick. The difference is using the stick you would need to have the stick anchored into a corner of a wall, something stable. So it allows you to get into that plank position going outwards here, right? So let's go ahead and get into it. All right, so we spent quite a bit of time kind of warming up there. Now we're gonna get into our TRX drill. This is where we're gonna have a yoga block. The yoga block is actually gonna be in between our knees. So for this drill here, I'm gonna grab the TRX straps here, and I'm going to have the yoga block between my knees. You can always go with a little bit more of a narrow stance if you'd like. Turn it in here, come a little bit more narrow. For the sake of this, I'm going to go with something a little bit wider. So it's gonna be roughly about hip to shoulder width for me. Toes are gonna be pointed forward. So it's gonna be very similar to a ab rollout. You wanna control your range of motion as much as you possibly can, as well as controlling your rib cage and your pelvis. I'm gonna have my hands on the handles here, and I'm already gonna be in a lean forward position. The block is there for a reason. We're actually going to compress our knees on the block. We're only gonna give it about 30 to 40% compressive tension. Now from here, we're activating that adductor line. Now we can get into that deep front line and those core tissues. So tuck your pelvis as you're compressing on the block, keep your rib cage down, and we're going to guide those hands out. Hold, get to a position that's actually pretty comfortable for you or doesn't allow your back to go into an extended position, and then you're gonna push yourself back into a little bit of a tall position or your original starting position. We'll go ahead and go into it again. Compress on that block, keep that tension, extend those hands out, create a long lever position if possible. Hold, keep compressing. You can have your heels off the floor, and then using your hands, push yourself back up into that upright position. Let's go again. Compress on the block, keep that tension, keep those hands out, create a long lever position, keep control of the pelvis and the rib cage. Breathe. 3, 2, 1, come back up, ease off, take a second. Let's go ahead and change angles here. I'm going to bring you in a little bit closer. And also something for us to keep in mind here is how far back we are standing in terms of where the starting position is of the TRX straps. That's going to depend on how hard the exercise is. So if you're starting from a more upright position, it's going to make it a little easier. If you start from a position where your hips are more so back, that is going to make it harder because now you're getting in this position where you're further stretched out and also your angle is a little bit more parallel to the floor. So I'm going to use the block again, and I'm actually going to go with a closer stance. So I'm actually going to turn the yoga block in like so, still creating compressive force, and I'm actually going to step back. So it's actually going to be quite a bit harder. Now from here, it's going to be that same thing. Tuck the pelvis, keep control of the pelvis and the rib cage, drop the rib cage in towards the pelvis, hands are straight out, and I'm going to bring my hands out as far as I can manage, keeping good posture, good structural integrity. Hold that position here, keep driving that rib cage down towards the pelvis, driving the front of the pelvis up towards the rib cage. Push yourself back up. That's 1. Let's go a couple more here. Compress on the block, get those adductor lines active, extend those hands out, hold that position. Make sure you're breathing here. You're driving your hands going down the entire time. Bring yourself back up. Excellent, that's 2. Let's go one more time. Compress on the block, hands are out. Extend those hands out. Go out as far as you can, maintaining structural integrity. Hold, keep compressing on a block. The core should be lit up. 3, 2, 1, back in, and ease off. Woo. That is a tough one. But we're using the adductor line to not only stabilize the pelvis, but using it as a way to fully connect and integrate the entire core system, because the deep front line does majorly connect to your entire core, and your transverse abdominis is actually a part of that as well. Let's get into our next one. All right, friends, this is now where we get to use the kettlebell and the slider. We're also going to keep the short stick with us, because we're going to use that as a way to work on creating some anterior line tension. Still working on that deep front line, but we're also going to add in a little bit of rotation along with it, right? The difference with that particular drill is as we actually work with that rotation, we're actually going to be in a split stance position, working rotation going towards the front leg. So we're still getting the core tissues, but we're also going to get those obliques quite a bit. So it's going to be a little intense here. Now, I'm going to place the stick down for now. And again, I have a 12 kilo kettlebell. You can use whatever weight is most comfortable for you. I maybe suggest starting off a little bit lighter. Now, my foot is going to be in the center of the slider, and I have something, stable surface for my right leg, but also we're using the turf here. This has a way for the slider to actually slide. So with the kettlebell, I'm gonna have it in this front rack position here. Now, how it's in this front rack position, I wanna make sure that my elbow is in nice and tight. I actually don't want it to flare out. I wanna keep it in here, right? Now we're gonna effectively do a Cossack squat. So I'm gonna slide my left foot out, and I wanna keep that left leg straight. So as I'm here, you can even place your opposite hand on top of the kettlebell, and I'm going to really have my leg, or have my weight mostly on that right leg here, go down as far as you comfortably can, and now I'm going to pull with that left foot all the way to a standing position. This is a really tough drill. We're going to do 4 reps per side. So from here, slide out, pull in. That's 2. Getting that adductor on that left side involved. Nice and upright. Pull. That's 3. Let's go one more time here, folks. Out. Pull. That's 4. And ease off. Take a second. Let's go ahead and switch sides here. So as we pull in on the foot that's on the slider, again, we want to keep that leg straight, but we're only going out as far as we can actually control. That first rep was a really, really tough one for me. So we're going to do this again. And actually, I'll stand back here. Get it to that front, get the kettlebell to that front rack position. Right foot's on the slider. Again, slide out. So keep a nice good position, elbow in nice and tight. Slide out. Nice good position here. Pull in. That's 1. Slide out. Pull in. It's 2. Slide out. Pull in. 3. One more time. Slide out. Keep your posture, keep your positioning. Pull in. That's 4. Excellent. Take a second. We're going to go into that again. So we're going to switch back to the kettlebell being in that right hand. Get into that front rack position here. Slide out. Pull in. It's 1. Pull in. 2. Pull in. 3. One more time. Pull in. 4. Excellent. Take a second. Go to relax. Kind of get a breather here. Now we're going to switch over to the other side. Last set. Get to that front rack position here. Make sure you're tucked in nice and tight. Foot is on the slider. Slide out. Push that right leg down. 1. Up. 2. Up. 3. One more time. Up. 4. Excellent. Take a second. Now, so we're gonna grab the short stick, and this is where we're getting into our little bit of a core drill, right? Again, we're gonna be in a split stance, and we're gonna be rotating towards that front leg. So we're really gonna get those obliques to fire, but there's gonna be a couple of different tricks that we can actually utilize to further facilitate a better contraction and engagement, at least on those obliques. I'm gonna start with my left leg forward, right leg is gonna be back. I have my feet effectively in line with my hips. I'm not going with a wide stance, that's actually not gonna be necessary. So my feet are roughly in line with my hips here. Now my back heel is gonna be up nice and high. So high heel on that back foot here. I'm gonna have the bottom of the stick in front of the line, or in front of my the line of my toes here. I want to make sure that left leg is planted. I'm gonna squat down. I'm gonna create a little bit of tension or load that front leg a bit here. I'm gonna have my hands roughly about chest or sternum height. Now from this position here, I'm going to drive the stick down 50%. Now already from there, you're gonna feel those anterior deep core tissues turn on. Now, as you're in this position, driving the stick down, tuck your pelvis. So you're gonna feel a better contraction in the core. Now from here, I'm going to rotate the stick over to my left as far as I can, hold, driving the stick down to 50%. Gonna feel the left oblique really fire. I'm gonna come back forward and ease off. Excellent. Good. We're gonna do that again. Then we're gonna switch sides. Load that front leg, right heel is up nice and high. Drive the stick down 50%, tuck your pelvis. Rotate the stick to the left. Hips don't rotate, it's just the spine. Keep driving the stick down. 3, 2, 1, back forward. Ease off. Excellent, good. Let's go ahead and switch sides here. So I'm actually gonna turn forward, step back. Now my right leg is forward, left leg is back here. Stick is gonna be in front of the line of my toes. I'm gonna have both hands roughly about chest or sternum height. Same thing, that back heel is up nice and high. Load that front leg, drive the stick down 50%, tuck your pelvis, rotate to your right. Hold. Excellent. Come back forward. Ease off. Awesome. Let's go one more time, folks. You're doing good. Rotate the stick a little bit. Load that front leg, back heel up nice and high. Drive the stick down 50%. Rotate to the right. Keep that pelvis tucked. Hold. 3, 2, 1. Back forward. And ease off. Woo. Excellent. Well done. So we connect to that front line, but we also get in a little rotation so we can still work that transverse abdominis. It has a lot to do with how well you rotate. All right. Let's go ahead and get into our deep fascial stretching. All right, folks. So now we're going to get into our deep fascial stretching. Very first stretch we're going to focus on is stretching out those hip flexors. We're also going to get into the adductor. So we're going to be in that half kneeling position for a little while, just kind of focusing on different angles we can have our front leg at to utilize stretching out the hips in different ways. So I'm going to take the pad that we used earlier, and we're going to go to a kneeling position. So let's go ahead and start with that right leg down first. Left foot is forward. Now, how far forward? That really is going to depend on how mobile you are, how flexible you are. It's going to be easy for you to get in that position. But we're going to start with this front leg roughly about 90 degrees because you can always adjust that front foot. Now, my back ankle is extended, so I want to drive that back foot into the floor here. Bottom of the stick is in line with my center line here. Hands are at about chest height. I'm going to first drive the stick down about 20%. I'm going to drive my back foot into the floor, and I'm going to tuck my pelvis, squeeze my right glute. That's already going to be a stretch here. So we're going to hold this for about 20 seconds. Want to make sure you're breathing here. Excellent. And ease off. Wonderful. Now we're going to progress it by actually shifting our hips forward a little bit into the stretch. Drive the stick down 20%, tuck your pelvis, drive your back foot down, squeeze your glutes, and shift your hips forward a bit, almost opening your hips up. As you do that, you don't want that low back to get involved, so it's really important that we keep our pelvis tucked and keep our glute nice and active here. We're going to ease off here. I'm going to move my left leg or left foot out to a 45-degree angle, and I'm going to have that foot angled outwards again at a 45-degree angle because I want to shift towards that front foot and shift in the direction where the foot's pointing. The stick, I'm going to move a little closer to my left foot, so it's almost going, my hands are going to effectively be diagonal. I'm just going to start off in a rotated position, but as I shift into it, my position is going to straighten out here. Now, same thing, we're going to drive that back foot down into the floor. I'm going to drive the stick down 20%, squeeze my right glute and tuck my pelvis. In the front of that hip's going to get a nice good stretch. Now I'm going to shift towards my front leg, and I'm gonna have my hands driving straight out here. So the stick is effectively in line with my center line here. So we're gonna get a nice good stretch on the adductor of that right leg. Ease off. And we're gonna do that one more time. Drive the back foot down, tuck your pelvis, squeeze the glute, and shift forward. Keeping that stick in line with our center line here. Excellent, ease off. Wonderful, let's go ahead and switch sides. So I'm actually going to turn to the side. Left foot is gonna be down, right foot is gonna be forward. And again, we're not gonna have the right foot too far forward. We're just gonna have it at a roughly 90-degree angle here. You can always adjust depending on your mobility. Bottom of the stick is in line with the ball of the foot on that front leg. Back ankle is extended. Drive the stick down, drive that back foot down, tuck the pelvis and squeeze the glute. Hold this position for 20 seconds. Make sure you're breathing, it's extremely important. Your deep front line does tie into your diaphragm. Excellent, ease off. Now we're gonna shift forward here. Drive the stick down, 20%, drive the back foot down, tuck your pelvis, squeeze your glute, and shift forward. Now again, notice as I'm shifting forward, my entire torso and body, everything is shifting forward as one unit. I don't want this to happen. I want everything to shift forward as one unit. Excellent, ease off. Gonna shift that right leg out, again at a 45-degree angle. Move the stick over to the right. Drive the stick down, drive the back foot down, squeeze that left glute. Shift your weight into that right hip. Stick is out. Get that nice adductor stretch here. Breathe. Ease off, nice and slow. Excellent. Let's go one more time here, folks. Doing good, doing excellent. Drive the stick down, tuck the pelvis, drive that back foot to the floor, squeeze the glute, shift into that front leg. Breathe. 3, 2, 1, ease off. Nice and slow. Just want to relax here. Then I want to finish off with one last drill. It is going to kind of incorporate a little bit of everything. We're going to finish off with the slap shot, very similar to the ninja flow. However, we get to kind of open up everything all at once. We're gonna go with the stick behind our mid back here. Hands are stretched out. You're gonna take a wide stance, like I mentioned before. It's gonna depend on your mobility, and you can always adjust your feet as we go along here. Hands are out. I'm gonna have a soft bend in my knees, and I'm going to hinge my hips back, drive my hips back towards the wall, get a stretch in those hammies. AKA hamstrings. I'm gonna rotate the left end of the stick down to my center line. I'm gonna pull the stick apart. I'm gonna hold that position of pulling the stick apart about 20%. I'm gonna ease off that tension of pulling it apart. And then I'm gonna pull it apart again, 20%. Nice bit of activation here. And I'm gonna lunge to my left, sinking into that left hip. I'm gonna lunge to my right. Getting a stretch on that left adductor, lunge to the left. Let go with the left hand. Reach to 3 o'clock. Place the left hand back down. Lunge to the right. Back to center. Bring the stick back to neutral. Now let's go to the opposite side. Rotate the right end down. Pull the stick apart. Hold. Excellent. Ease off. Let's go one more time. Pull the stick apart. Excellent. Lunge to the right. Excellent. Now to the left. Breathe. Lunge to the right. Let go with the right hand. Reach to 9. Place the hand back down. Pull apart. Lunge to the left. Back to center. Ease off. Come back to neutral. Stand up and wiggle those feet in. Perfect. And that, my friends, concludes today's stick mobility class. I want to say thank you for joining me for today. Hope you guys had a good class, and I will be sure to catch you guys on the next one. As usual, stay safe and have a good one.